Can a consultation with a telemedicine doctor cause diarrhea?
Say what?
Say what?
Let's talk about it on this week's Wednesday Checkup. Just in case you were wondering what telemedicine is, it's when you get a consultation from a doctor remotely, meaning through the phone, internet, video chat app, what have you. Now this is rising in popularity like crazy. We're gonna get back to the diarrhea from the opening shortly, but let's talk about what this study that I'm very excited to tell you about is all about. To summarize, a study was published in the Journal of Pediatrics that showed children who had a consultation with a telemedicine doctor had a much higher rate for a prescription of antibiotics than if they were to be seen at a primary care office like my own. Now, why is this problematic? Well, I'll tell you. The huge majority of respiratory tract infections, basically colds, don't require antibiotics. This is because antibiotics don't work on viruses. You've heard me say this literally a million times. Why is that such a big deal? So they got more antibiotics. Doesn't that mean they got better care? No, not necessarily. In fact, definitely not. Respiratory tract infections, by the huge majority, are caused by a virus, meaning that they don't require an antibiotic. Antibiotics only work on bacteria. And I'll briefly run through the list of why overprescribing antibiotics is bad. 1, cost. You shouldn't be paying for a medicine you don't need. 2, antibiotics are not benign medications. They have true adverse events. Diarrhea, like we talked about at the opening, rashes, allergic reactions, your throat closing up, and finally, resistance. That super bug I'm always talking about that bacteria that can get into your system where antibiotics can't even fix it. That's scary stuff. I understand why telemedicine is so popular. I mean, us millennials, we treasure convenience almost above all else. We want to save time. We may be traveling. We don't have access to a doctor. The cost is less when we use a telemedicine consultation as opposed to going to a doctor's office. But it truly is alarming to hear that telemedicine may be hurting the outcomes for these people who want better convenience, who want more access for lower costs. And I think the reason why telemedicine doctors are overprescribing antibiotics are as follows. First and foremost, there is usually no relationship with the doctor and the patient. Now, if one of my patients comes to see me, I know what they're like. I know if they're really sensitive, that if they have a stuffy nose, they can act very dramatic. Or I have some patients that if I see that they have some pain, they have such a high pain tolerance, I really worry and get an x-ray early on. But if you don't have that sort of doctor-patient relationship, you may come to an incorrect conclusion. Second, if you're doing a telephone consultation, there is no physical exam. Think about that for a baby. If a mother calls and says her child is fussy, has a fever, it's hard to decide whether it's viral or bacterial without a proper physical exam. I mean, you need to look in that baby's ear. But without that physical exam, you may be practicing what's known as CYA medicine, cover your butt medicine. That's when you're so worried about being sued by a patient, by them becoming worse and you not treating them with antibiotics, that you just overprescribe antibiotics in the hopes of covering your butt. Now, I've seen this happen one too many times, even in primary care offices. So I can only imagine how much more often it's happening in a telemedicine consultation where there's no existing relationship, where there's no proper physical exam done. It's obvious that you're not gonna have great outcomes in this case. One of the more concerning things that I've actually read in a study that was done in late 2018 last year was that doctors who practice telemedicine, who are generally just scattered throughout the country, those doctors had higher satisfaction rates and shorter visit times. And guess what doctors get compensated on? Shorter visit times and higher patient satisfaction scores. That's the problem right there. If doctors are more motivated to get you out the door and just keep you happy, they're gonna give you whatever it is that you want. Just because you want an antibiotic, it doesn't mean that it's the right treatment plan. Sometimes the visit may need to take longer because the doctor should educate you on why you don't need an antibiotic, on what lifestyle things you can do to maybe speed up your recovery, maybe to prevent you from having the same symptoms next time. It's kind of crazy to me as a doctor that by doing the wrong thing, overprescribing antibiotics, you can have higher patient satisfaction and shorter visit times. That's wild. As a young doctor, it really gets me excited when technology and healthcare combine. So when I hear the story about telemedicine not giving quality care to patients, it truly upsets me because I see how advantageous telemedicine can be. You can have lower costs, better access to care. You have consultations with specialists who may be in a totally different city than you, but can give you really great advice. It's just in this case, the standards of care are not being maintained. We need to hold telemedicine docs accountable for overprescription of medications, change the incentive system so that we don't just focus on patient satisfactions and shorter visit times, but instead focus on quality medicine in addition to those factors. I'm excited for the future of telemedicine, and frankly, you should be too. Telemedicine antibiotics seem to be struggling, but here's another instance where telemedicine fell short. Check out my video here, click it.